This is the point where she became unhinged. You threw all of his business out there over something this big. Ain't no coming back from that. I wouldn't want nothing to do with her after that. Welcome to La Vida Rosa. I'm your host Pinky, and today we're going to be talking about Married at First Sight. But before we begin, I would like for everyone to check out my favorite perfumes from Dossier. In case you didn't know, Dossier creates affordable scents based off of your favorite high-end brands. First, we have Ambery Saffron, which is a favorite for a lot of people because it is based off of the famous and popular Baccarat perfume. The reason why it's one of the best sellers is because honestly it smells so much like the original, but y'all know the original is super expensive. This one is super affordable, smells amazing, long lasting, definitely one I grab often because I really just love this scent. So this one is another one of my favorites, Floral Violet, and it's based off of Marc Jacobs Daisy. Everyone is very familiar with that scent, and I feel like this scent really does smell the same as that one. So close. But once again, this bottle is much more affordable than the original, so I definitely would go check both of these out on the website. The link to the website will be down below. Before you head there, make sure you use my discount code where you can get a percentage off of your order. Shout out to Dossier for sponsoring this video. So we getting down to the nitty gritty. There's no one to root for, unfortunately. They have done a great job of choosing people who either were not ready to get married or were not good matches for each other. And like, we are only on episode 8. They've only been married for 11 days at this point. Yes, 11 days, and everything is falling apart. I really hate to be so pessimistic, but just based off of what we've seen in the past and based off of what they have shown us so far, I can't root for anyone because I low-key don't want them to be together. I feel like it would be toxic, it would be unhealthy, and they just were not matched up correctly. But before I go in any further, let's go ahead and get Alyssa and Chris out of the way. Why do we need to see them again? More specifically, Alyssa. I probably wouldn't mind seeing Chris hang out with the fellas every now and then. That would be cute, but outside of that, what's the point? I do want to point out the fact that a lot of people in my comment section always think that when couples quit early before decision day that they have to pay some sort of $50,000 fine, and that fine is only if you decide not to participate on the show further. As long as they continue filming, they don't have to pay that fine. But if Chris were to say, I don't feel like filming the rest of this season, or Alyssa says, I don't want to participate in the rest of this season, but why would she? Because she wouldn't be on TV. We know she would never say that. As long as they don't refuse to participate in the rest of the season, they don't have to pay the fine. But I'm sure we'll see them pop up here and there throughout the rest of the season so they can, you know, squeeze whatever screen time they can out of them. It's hilarious to me how Alyssa was retelling the story to her friends, like just straight up lying. She acted like she tried so hard and like Chris wasn't the one that was trying, when in actuality it was literally the exact opposite. You would have thought she was Chris in this situation. And I just love for every lie they played a clip exposing what really happened. That was hilarious. Shout out to the editors for that one. Even when she was talking to her friend had never met Chris. She didn't come to the wedding. But even her friend was telling her, well, maybe, you know what I'm saying, maybe you're being too hard on him. Even the friend said it. The mom said it. Everybody knows Alyssa is the problem. And then later on in the episode, when all the couples meet up, they had to reveal to the other couples that they were not staying together, and then everybody had to look shocked. I didn't know. Y'all know y'all have a group chat, and y'all know y'all done already talked about this. But it was just so funny to me how Alyssa was, I've tried so hard, pretending to dab tears that don't exist. I tried so hard. I wanted it to work. Nobody was buying it. Girl, you could have saved that. Hopefully good riddance, but I'm sure they'll bring her back to come hang out with her girl. Let's go ahead and talk about Michael and Jasmina, who had a fairly decent episode after talking with Pastor Cal, but they also really didn't interact much one-on-one. So how can we truly say they're on a better road? I don't know. So he met up with his sister. I couldn't even be bothered because he didn't even tell her the full story. And I'm just like, Michael, this is not helping your case. Like, if you're gonna ask for help from somebody, at least tell what really happened. So let's move on. So she went and met up with one of her friends who's been engaged for like 8 years. And I'm like, this is who you getting advice from? Anyway, she says they haven't really talked since the meeting with Pastor Cal, and the trust is gone, which honestly, at this point, was there ever any trust? Like, when you fall out at the honeymoon, there really wasn't much trust to begin with, because y'all were strangers at that point still. Y'all know I feel like Michael is a deceiver, and I feel like he stuck his foot in his mouth a couple of times, and that would make me not want to trust him either. That I wouldn't want to be lovey-dovey with someone that I feel like is constantly deceiving me. The friend did say that she tends to be stubborn and rarely admits when she's wrong, and she low-key was about to get upset right then and there, but she had to catch herself. So I'm not saying that Jasmina is perfect. I'm just saying that she has a good reason not to be giving her all right now. So then they have the housewarming. They seemingly were back on the same page, you know, having fun with friends. But you know, people, they know how to put on an act in front of other people. You can't really go by how couples act in front of their friends and family, because some people really do like to put on a united front. So, you know, they did a good job of hosting. Some of y'all think that Jasmina doesn't like him. She did tell his sister that she did like him. I mean, she could be lying, but she said it. And the sister said that Michael couldn't tell whether she liked him or not. So maybe that's the conversation they need to have. The sister likes that she stands her ground with him and says that it's important. I think that's good too. I think Michael is someone that needs to have his feet held to the fire so he doesn't try to weasel his way out of certain stuff. So once again, I'm glad Jasmina speaks up for herself and doesn't just let things happen that she knows isn't right. She calls it out. I'm glad that she does that. He asked her friends advice for what's going on in their relationship, and you could tell Jasmina been telling them what's going on. That one friend was not having it, okay? She was giving him the side eye the entire time. She basically said be patient and listen, and, you know, ask where things went wrong. And you know, she can be really petty and he can be really petty too. So I don't know. A storm is brewing, y'all. Once again, I feel like they only did good this episode because they didn't really communicate much this episode. So I feel like the storm is yet brewing. Let's move on to Olajuwon and Katina. He met up with his friend, and once again they have this conversation about him being scared to be intimate with her. Last episode I felt like he was just saying that, but this episode I kind of believe him, because his friend was like, he ain't never been like this before. Maybe he's scared that if he is intimate with her, it would ignite his player ways. Like, I don't know, because y'all know I already felt uncomfortable with the fact that at his wedding he was like, yeah, me getting married, I feel like all my sins are washed away. That rubbed me the wrong way. So for him to be scared to be intimate with his wife, I'm like, why? Like, what? And the only reason why I'm questioning it is because any other time it wouldn't be. So I don't think that he's not attracted to her, and we'll get into, you know, what he said later on to her friend. I think maybe he thinks the Isaac in him is not dead. And if he ignites that, then he is not going to know how to control himself. That's my guess. What do y'all think? Because honestly, I don't really feel like Olajuwon has done the work to change. I feel like maybe he's remained celibate for a few months, you know, or something like that. He thinks that, like, changed everything, but has your mindset changed? The friend asked, well, do you see any red flags with her? And he talked about how she went grocery shopping and only came home with one bag, some water and some bread. And the friend told him to calm down. Like, for real, calm down. If you want certain things from the grocery store, y'all sit down and write a list. Maybe she only meant to get a couple of things. Did you ask her to get more? Like, he needs to come down to earth, be realistic, because he has like this romanticized version of what he thinks a marriage is and what he thinks a wife should be. And he needs to realize that nobody is perfect and nobody is going to be able to read your mind and know exactly what you want. So then she meets up with one of her friends, and this particular friend sat down with Olajuwon the day of their wedding, and, you know, she did not get a good impression from him. She felt like she was over talking to everybody. You know, Olajuwon can go on and on and on, but she felt like he was over talking the situation to stifle the questions, right? So she does not have a good impression of him whatsoever, and she's basically letting Katina know that. She brought up the fact that he has never been in a relationship with a black girl, and I'm like, I know they showed us this conversation, but whoever edited that episode, y'all left out a very important piece of that conversation, because honestly, that explains so much. I couldn't put my finger on it with him, but that explains a lot. They come back and clarify that he's never like seriously dated. Maybe he's slept with black women, but he's never dated one. To be fair, he probably has never seriously dated anyone. Okay? So I'm trying not to hold too much against him, but it just makes sense, y'all. It makes complete sense. But then he said, yeah, no black woman has ever been attracted to me. Olajuwon, I'm sorry, that's a lie. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're just delusional. I don't know what type of crowds you hang around. I don't know if you've been turned down by black women that you find attractive. Maybe those women didn't find you attractive. But you can't tell me not one black woman has found you attractive. I just don't believe that. You were a football player in college. Unless you went like to an all-white school, I don't see that. I don't see that. You were, because say what y'all want, he is attractive in the face, okay? He has a nice body. He keeps himself up. The mohawk might scare a few people off. I ain't gonna lie. But there are gonna be black women attracted to him because he is attractive. So, you know, he was like, they weren't attracted to me. And so he used this experiment to try something new. Y'all, I don't know. All of that is a red flag. And then Katina starts making excuses for him and saying that his mom is Irish and that he has a mohawk, basically alluding to the fact that he doesn't look black. And girl, no ma'am. I'm glad the friend shut that all the way down. He looks black. He looks black. When I first saw Olajuwon, I was actually a little bit taken aback that he had a white mom, because I for sure thought he was black. He just looks like a light-skinned black man. Okay, I believe him that his mom is Irish. I believe he said he has a Nigerian father. So, you know, it checks out. But he's like an Obama type of biracial man. You know how Obama, when you look at Obama, you don't see biracial, you just see a light-skinned black man. And I want to make it clear that I know that biracial doesn't have a specific look, but I'm just speaking on stereotypically how people assume a biracial person would look. I'm kind of curious to know is, how does he identify? Another question is, do you value black women? And I hope that Katina asked those questions, because she's kind of ready to like zoom past it, and I feel like it's something to talk about. It's like there's nothing wrong with having these conversations, because I feel like it gives you a better perspective on who that person is and whether y'all should remain together or not. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was intimidated, because you do constantly see him searching for her validation. You know, do you think I'm cute? Do you like this? Do you like this? Like trying to get her opinion on everything. And also, he constantly tries to assert his dominance with her. And I feel like that would be another symptom of him being intimidated slightly. So we'll see, y'all. So then we get to the housewarming. You know, those friends didn't like him in the beginning either. They talked to him about, you know, which I feel like they were overstepping, even though I know the producers probably asked him to ask this question. But when it comes to them being intimate and how important that is to her, that's between them. Like, y'all. And then they also called him out for his delivery and tell him to have patience with her the same way that she has patience with you, because at the same time that they're having that conversation, Katina is talking with his friend about how he, you know, has a short temper and he be wilding out, and she just, you know, be like, okay, kind of like brushing off what he's doing, like letting him act out until he calms down, and then like they can have a conversation. I don't know how I feel about that either. I want to see him act out, because he communicates harshly, but you need to talk to your wife differently. He does a lot of, well, this is just how I am, this is just how I communicate, and once you get to know me, you know I'm not like that. But it's like, you need to learn how to communicate with your wife. If your wife is not receptive to the way that you're communicating, you need to tailor that. Let's go ahead and talk about Lindsay and Mark. So in the beginning of this episode, we see Mark hanging out with his friends, and his friend was basically saying that he's the type to fall head over heels very early in the relationship. He always says, I love you first. Like, he falls very fast usually. But like, how is your relationship with Lindsay going? And basically he's like, you know, he sees her nurturing side. Like, she set up an appointment for his mother to go to the doctor when his mother hasn't been in a year. So she does proactive things like that for him that are very sweet and does come off like she cares. But then there's that other side of Lindsay that is unfiltered, crass, mouth crazy, lethal. Not only does she do that to him, but when they're in group settings, it comes out in group settings as well, and it embarrasses him. That is what's keeping him from being all in with her. And on top of all that, her drinking does not help. I'm sure that only makes everything worse. And so at this point, I'm just like, well, you need to be putting your foot down or you need to leave. And Lindsay does do sweet things for him, but she just has this takeover spirit, okay? Like, you're doing all this stuff, but are you even consulting with him before you do it? Like, you're getting mad that he's not appreciating the things that you're doing, but he didn't actually want you to do that in the first place. So they all meet up with the other couples. Everybody is having free-flowing conversation. And instead of like jumping in and, you know, getting in where you fit in conversations, she has to stand up, stop the entire conversation so everyone can listen to her and what she has to say. And she was giving drunkard, okay? She definitely was giving drunkard in that moment. And it got so bad that Jasmina had to be like, Steve was actually in the middle of asking a question, and after we have that conversation, you can go ahead and say what you gotta say. And she literally was acting like a little kid, still talking, mumbling under her breath. Right? So she's making the situation uncomfortable anyway. I'm sure everybody in that room was turned off by what she was doing, because it's like, we are trying to have fun and you want to rule the conversation. Mind you, the story she was trying to tell was yet again another embarrassing story about Mark, and that is a theme with her. So when she finally does get the floor, she's speaking and Katina rolls her eyes. I forgot to mention right before this, when Katina was speaking, she was mumbling things under her breath to Mark, being rude. Could Katina not roll her eyes? Yes. Katina could sit there stone-faced like everyone else, but Katina decided not to, and she rolled her eyes. But I seem to remember Lindsay doing something very similar when Alyssa called her out for making a face, and you didn't like it when Alyssa did it, because guess what? We're all grown, and as long as I'm not interrupting you speaking, she was over there minding her business. As far as you're concerned, you don't have to look at me. So I don't know why she always feels the need to provoke Katina, but it's like, you got the right one. Katina was like, you know, I'm not trying to argue with you again on camera. You know not to talk to me, girl. Okay, shut it down very fast. Sorry, Lindsay be looking for conflict. She be looking for it. She wants it. She wants it with her husband. And if anybody else in that group would give her conflict, she would take it with them too. Katina is just rowdy enough to give it to her. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like, you know, everybody else is either going to stay quiet or take the conservative route, whereas Katina is going to call it out. So after that blow up happened, they're kind of off to the side, and Lindsay asked why his mood changed. And he told her that the whole exchange with Katina, he didn't like it, right? You could have let that go. This is the point where she became unhinged. Okay? I feel like whatever she was drinking hit her system hard. She was already doing the most, but this is where she became lethal. This is also where we see that she has zero respect for Mark, and she literally once again resorted to emasculating him. She basically told him, oh, you're mad at me? Call your mama and see if she lets you in. She called him weak. She said he was a pathetic loser. And then really gets personal, talking about the bed bugs in his apartment, like screaming some of these things to the top of her lungs. She went in on his profession and salary, basically saying, you sell gym memberships and only make $60,000 a year. Let's be real, y'all. We're in a panorama, okay? I know what the real word is. I just don't want to get flagged on YouTube, y'all. For this man to be gainfully employed right now, how could you ever insult that? I feel like that was such a low blow. Obviously, she makes more than him, you know what I'm saying? But for her to hit below the belt like that, I thought that was so disgusting. And then she went even lower and basically told the producers that he does not please her in bed over this small disagreement. Like, you threw all of his business out there over something this big. How can you say all of that about your husband and then claim that you care about him? Mark, those are her true colors right there. I don't know if you're still with her. Hopefully not. Hopefully you said no on decision day. But if you are still with her, I want you to see that she do not care about you whatsoever. For her to say those things, ain't no coming back from that. I wouldn't want nothing to do with her after that. I can't get behind it. I no longer like Lindsay. I no longer see it for her. And I want him to leave her ASAP. So let's move on to Noi and Steve. So when we first see them, Steve is showing us that he got a pooper scooper because he's grossed out by picking up the droppings of her dog. And so I feel like he's making a nice compromise that shows that he does plan to take on that responsibility. That was nice. And then later on we see that he cooked for her. And, you know, later on in the show, he tells us that he's been doing majority of the cooking in the household. And I can appreciate that. I can appreciate the fact that he knows that he needs to pick up the slack because she does have like a 9-to-5 job. So they begin to talk about his job situation. And he didn't realize that it would be a problem with him not having that steady 9-to-5. And, you know, he says he's self-employed and living by his own terms. And the thing I need for Steve to do at this point, because maybe he does have a lot of money saved up. Maybe he does have these great opportunities and he could tap into them whenever he feels like it. But your wife does not feel secure. So I'm going to need for you to lay out the budget. I'm going to need for you to show her some bank statements. You need to show her because she is not comfortable with this. And he's like, you know, I don't like the fact that my wife isn't supporting me. And it's like, we're only going based off of your word. You are still a stranger. You are still a stranger. She doesn't know you. She doesn't know if what you're saying is a fact. Your daddy called you a vagabond to her. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of y'all be defending Steve and saying like, you know, he could be making lucrative deals and things like that. Well, he needs to lay it out. I'm sorry. Like, nip this in the bud once and for all. It's going to continue to bring stress to your relationship if you keep on being vague, because that's what it is. He's too vague. When she asks him questions, it's always these roundabout answers when she needs like a solid direct one. Otherwise, you're leaving it to her own interpretation, and that's not good enough because she doesn't really know you. He says he feels secure and he's been able to take care of himself and his priorities, and he's choosing not to work right now to develop himself and their relationship and also to create more opportunities. And she's like, well, do I have a say in that? And she basically saying, what's the plan? He basically said living off of savings, and when he needs the money, he will get it. And I'm sorry, that would sound sketchy to anybody. It just would. Like, it would sound sketchy to me. She says she supports him being self-employed, but she doesn't see any of the action behind it. And that's the problem. So like I said, lay it all out there once and for all so we can dead this, okay? Pull up your computer, pull it up, show it to her. Show her the kind of money it brings in, okay? Show her some bank statements showing your savings. Like, y'all are married. You need to be as transparent as possible because clearly this is not good enough. So they had their housewarming, both prepared homemade cultural meals, which I thought was very nice. So then they started discussing children once again, which I know is a hot debate with them. He's basically said it's not the fact that she only wants 3 children, because he's flexible when it comes to that. It's like the lack of flexibility of being open-minded that he has a problem with. And I totally agree with him on that. Obviously, she's expressed concern about his occupation and bringing in money to her friends because they confront him about that, saying that she doesn't want to be the primary breadwinner, and he basically said that he doesn't plan on, you know, that being the case, and he has a vast network to tap into, but he just doesn't choose to. He doesn't appreciate the fact that he's doubtful of her, but once again, show her the receipts and she won't have a reason to doubt you. I promise you, if you show her money coming in, she will be a believer. So the next thing we see is her cooking dinner for him for the first time. At some point, he told her that she was overcooking the noodles and he drained them. And the next thing you know, she grabs her bag, the dog, and leaves. Like that was her last straw. So I'm thinking this financial conversation is holding a lot more weight over the relationship than anybody thought, especially Steve. I'm not excusing this behavior whatsoever because I'm about to get on her, trust me. But you can't tell me she got this mad over noodles. She leaves and he texts her. She refuses to answer, and she literally did not come home until the next day. And he said that he was willing to apologize to her, but she won't talk to him. So she can't answer his phone calls, but she's posting subliminal messages on social media about their relationship not being good enough. And when he came home, he literally confronted her about that message on social media. And she was like, yeah, like so nonchalant about it. And I was so disappointed in Noi because you are childish. You have shown that you are very selfish and you don't know how to communicate, and you act like a rebellious teenager. I was so disappointed in this conversation that they had. The way you left made it seem like you left over pasta. So this man is sitting here agonizing, texting, you know what I'm saying? You ghosted him. You are this man's wife and you ghosted him. He's agonizing, wondering what he did wrong. And he's thinking in his mind, like, if you're going to leave over pasta and blast it basically on social media, imagine when y'all do have bigger problems, like, and you will have more problems. She told him that he came off as unappreciative when this is her first time cooking for him. She didn't like the fact that he was criticizing her food, which, you know what, if you would have stuck around, it's fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe he could have said it in a different way. Maybe, you know, I feel like sometimes men can be a little rude when it comes to the food not being like his mama's or the way he likes it or whatever. But it's not reasonable for you to just dip like that because of it. So she feels like he makes little snide comments like this all the time. But it's like, girl, you need to woman up and tell him that. Like, when he makes those comments, you need to tell him in the moment that that bothers you. How else would he know not to do it? How else would he know that you're upset? And she was like, well, you're just mad because I don't communicate the way that you want me to communicate or the way that you communicate. And it's like, no, it's okay for you to step out and get some air. But ghosting him and posting subs on social media is just unacceptable. And honestly, I want all of the men from this show to take note on how he confronted her, because he was very solid in his stance. He set the boundaries. He let her know exactly how he felt. He was very clear. Okay. When she was like, well, maybe I shouldn't post on social media, he was like, no, you for sure should not have done that, because my family members follow you, and to see something like that about our marriage and they come to me and ask me and I had to tell them it's about noodles because you didn't even tell me what the problem was. I love how he laid it out there. He was very assertive and he quote unquote put his foot down, but he didn't have to be aggressive. He didn't have to get loud, and he was very respectful about it. And honestly, he's one of the most emotionally intelligent people on this show to have ever participated in this show, because he articulated himself very well, and I was very impressed with it. The jury is still out on whether he needs to get a job, but I appreciate the way Steve handled this situation. I only wish Noi could have been a little bit more mature about it as well. So y'all let me know how y'all feel down below. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I would love to hear your opinion, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Peace.